I'm liking the background.
Right?
Is this in preparation of fatherhood?
Yeah, I'm just getting ready for the interrupting children.
Mm-hmm.
You saw that one on BBC, right? That
Of
famous.
course.
Yeah. Okay. Because some people don't actually get the joke, and
I think honestly, in this time, now that we're all in the same boat, even if you haven't seen it, you should get the joke.
Oh yeah, the joke is definitively like the joke was so good even before.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, hold on. My hair's getting out of control. I'm gonna have to figure that whole thing
Oh,
out.
I'm worried. I miss my barber.
Seriously?
Yeah.
How often do you go?
Every 5 weeks, about
Okay.
5,
Yeah.
6. Yeah. Oh,
I'm probably like every month.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, it's gonna get wild around here.
Yeah.
Scary. hashtag first world problems.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, seriously. Hold on one second. I want to try something because Canva has some really cool backgrounds.
Oh, sweet.
And
good play by Canva.
Yeah, seriously. And it's optimized really well too.
Mm-hmm.
And this was what I wanted to try. Let's see if it'll actually work. Yeah, it does.
Ah,
Very cool.
that's great.
That's very cool. Okay, so they do have some really cool they have videos and stuff, which is they have like video backgrounds and which I'd never really seen anyone doing the video background ones.
I'm liking it though.
Hey, Pat. You're muted, buddy.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Zee, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. How about you?
Good, good. You know, just surviving this thing with 2 small children, you know.
I had the child peeking through the background before. So, but you've seen that already, Pat. Plus you live it. So I don't think you need any more of that.
That's such a tease. Like I have this fake kid behind me, not a real one.
I'm just getting ready.
Hey, Michael.
We got a bunch of folks hopping on, which is awesome for Monday. I miss my group. I need my therapy. Are y'all going to charge me after this? I feel like I'm going to get a bill.
I think if you just step out of the picture, we can all be relaxed today.
Oh,
oh, that's beautiful.
I was going to say, Michael, isn't that always the case? Yeah, so I'll give Canva a little plug when we start this thing because that's where I found it. Wow, cool. We got folks hopping on. This is great. We'll give it what time is it? We'll give it a few more minutes. It's just 12:01. So, and then we'll kick this thing off. Did I lose Reinhardt?
No.
Oh, just on my screen I lost you. That's weird. There you are. Oh, the chat thing was in front of you. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, my internet's been really bad the last few days.
Yeah, your internet's spotty as hell.
Yeah, so if I start to break up, I'm just going to drop off just so I can spare everyone.
It's interesting. Ever since we messed around with your router or restarted, I feel like it went nuts.
Actually, what I think it is, it's when Vanessa had to start doing her video classes.
Oh, you think that's using up all the bandwidth?
Yeah, I think it's both of us on Zoom all the time.
Interesting. There might be a way for you to reduce the quality.
I'm probably not going to look too much into it.
Yeah, but I'm sure there is a way. All right, let's give this a couple more minutes, folks. Thank you all for your patience.
How was your weekend, Stefan?
You know, it was same as everything. It feels like everything is a blur.
Yes, every day is Monday.
Yeah, but no, it's not even that. I don't even want to get into it. It's not even that. it would have been the same anyway. It's not like I'm running outside and like, oh, let me just go on vacation or whatever. It's not like I was getting out of my house anyway, but it's the fact that I can't. That's the difference.
Yes.
You know,
100%.
it's the fact that I can't. It also makes me realize that I'm an absolute idiot living in New York City and not getting out more. That's the other thing too.
Yeah, I had a whole conversation with Jameson about the difference between because he's like, but I like being home. I'm like, there's a difference between liking being home and being trapped in your home. So
don't tell your kid that he's trapped.
Different thing.
It's good if he's ignorant right now. This is the one time you definitely want your child to be ignorant. Cool. So let's kick it off. I'm Stefan Bajayo, Chief Evangelist at Conductor. To my right in my screen, and notice how my hands disappear. Woo. Patrick Reinhardt, as always, and special guest, Zee Hoffmann Jones, a woman whose name only pales in comparison in length to her knowledge and search. So
we'll see about that.
Oh, come on. Like I'm the first one to mention how long your name is. It's very hard to type into like a social promotional thing. I had to change the whole structure.
I know, that's why you have to have a good monosyllabic first name that everybody remembers.
Yeah, that's true. Not that Bajayo is really like an easy one. So anyway, I should be the last person to critique anyone's last name. Thank you all so much for joining Search from Home. Hopefully everyone had a wonderful weekend, or whatever you call these things that happen in between Fridays and Mondays that feel very similar. So yeah, Zee, how are you? Where are you? What's life in the COVID world like for you?
So I'm also in New York. We're on the Upper East Side, and we're doing okay. All of our friends and family are safe. We're very lucky and fortunate for that. We do live with roommates, so we're 4 people plus a dog in a 900 square foot apartment, which feels way smaller now than it ever has.
Wow.
But we make it work. We're very KonMari about our lives, so that makes it possible.
Very cool. Very cool. And how was your weekend?
The same as every other day.
Yeah. Have you stopped? Do you actually change what you do on your weekends? Now, first of all, we should also say you work for Distilled. Give everyone a little bit of background because they might not know who you are. So let's let you do a little intro of yourself, and then we'll kick back over to the good stuff.
No, totally. So yeah, I've been with Distilled for almost 4 years now. I've been in the industry for going on 8 or 9, I think. And at Distilled, I am the consulting team lead of the New York team. So whenever we've got new business, I help the team figure out who would be best suited to work on a given account and make sure that we've got enough resources available. What else can I share with you? My background is in nonprofits. So Distilled was actually my first for-profit gig, and it was good enough to keep me there. But I still have a soft spot for the 501c3s and helping out any NGO efforts there. Recently, Distilled was acquired by Brain Labs in London. They're a PPC agency. So it was a really exciting merger for us because we always needed more PPC services, and it turns out Brain Labs always needed SEO services. So that's been a fun learning period. Obviously, this trial run of working together is crazy different now that we're all forcibly remote. Yep. But we're still making it work. Like, fortunately, unlike a lot of our clients, we're used to working remotely. Like, it was already part of our culture. So our hurdles were not exactly the same as some of my roommates or some of our clients.
How are you dealing with if you've been in tune with all the NGOs and the nonprofits? What are you? I'm sure your heart must be breaking, among other reasons, but with everything going on there, and it must be very hard to try and keep those things alive while it seems, people don't know what they have to provide. One, the philanthropic effort of physical philanthropy is pretty much like dead right now, right? The monetary aspect of philanthropy, when all of the, let's just say, potential donors that could give in a large sum have now just lost a substantial amount of money in the market, or at least on paper they have.
Right.
What are you hearing from that space?
No, great question. So for For some nonprofits, I think similar to our work dynamic, right? Like for if you work at a digital company and you're already on your computer and you have work from home culture in some way, the same nonprofits that have those models are responding pretty well so far. So if you look at Volunteer Match, I think they're the largest database of like of volunteer opportunities to find online. So like whether it be remote or in person, they responded extremely well and quickly because their whole platform is online and they already had remote volunteer opportunities there. Some others like Crisis Text Line also, since it's all over text, you don't have to show up to a phone bank. All of their volunteers were remote anyway, and all their trainings were done that way. So they seem to be doing fine. As far as actual dollars, that is what concerns me, right? Because folks just don't have the capital lying around. And while we might want to help out, most of the concerns are, it's kind of hard to know where and how to help out, right? Like you may be worried about your own bottom line and how many financial resources you have to afford there. You may also kind of be, at least in my position, I'm kind of overwhelmed by whom I should be helping out and how. It's hard to know because everybody's like, okay, buy a mask, donate a mask. Everybody's focused on masks right now. So like, is that actually where we should be putting our dollars, or should we continuously fund nonprofits like Racy's and the like different advocacy projects that are helping like the most in need populations still in person? Like we still have homelessness around the country, and those are going to be our most vulnerable populations right now. So how can we help them?
It's a great point.
Hard to know.
No, it is hard to know, and hard to know where to spend your time and your effort. And I guess we've been talking about this. You've been on the show as a part of our community for a little while now. I think you've probably heard us talk about this. It's hard to know. It's, you know, I'm unfortunately not a handy guy, right? At least not handy enough that I would know how to build something or do something with my hands that could solve this problem, right? I don't have 100 bots sitting in my home that could just produce all day long, and I wouldn't mind spending the money on the electricity, right? Or on the raw material. I wouldn't mind either of those things. I just don't have the actual units. So, you know, in that time and place, you have to look at what is your skill set, right? And our skill set, our medium, right? Our milieu, so to speak, is digital. So, you know, I know Lily Ray's been making a push for this, but like, what do you think we can do to help in these cases? Like, what are you thinking about as someone who's very philanthropic minded? Like, what are you thinking about in terms of helping?
Absolutely. So I'm very fortunate in that my job is secure. Like, let's hope that doesn't change in the next couple of weeks. But as far as we know, like business is still good. We're still happy. Everybody still has a job. Everything's still good where we're concerned. So I still have the finances to keep donating to the places that I was already donating to.
Sure.
If you're someone who is philanthropic and you're able to afford that, now is not the time to stop if you can. If you normally, like I like to give, because my niece and nephew are like 2 and 4 months old. So for any upcoming gifts, I'm going to donate to a nonprofit in their name. They don't need stuff. They've got plenty of stuff. They're spoiled as hell. So like I might donate to a nonprofit in their name in advance of their birthday or in advance of a holiday if I have that capital right now, because this is now is the time that they really need it. Everyone's going to be donating around the holidays or around Giving Tuesday. Separately, as far as our working hours, if anybody is able to donate digital marketing consulting time to a nonprofit that they care about, if you do have friends in spaces or even local businesses, right? It's not just about nonprofits. Like we care a great deal about our local businesses. If you have those connections, if you can spare a couple hours a week just to talk to folks, I'd encourage you to do that. I know that in our London office, we've taken on a nonprofit client. And I like they're still a paying client, but they're not a B2B, they're not a SaaS company, and we're able to support them at this time. We're really happy to be able to do that.
Yeah, I kind of start to wonder if there isn't, you know, this concept of pro bono, right, was always at least as it was introduced to me as a kid or younger, was the idea that like lawyers did it, right? They do their pro bono hours, you know? And so the lawyer who bills the $500, $600 an hour now, you know, goes off and does the pro bono work to make themselves feel better or whatever. But it's good that they're doing the pro bono work, and it's usually like save someone on death row. It's like super extreme stuff, right?
Right.
I guess, should we as digital marketers start thinking about that? Not just in a COVID world, but like
in general.
yeah.
Yeah, in general. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like right now, for example, Luke, Conley at Conductor turned me on to his friend started a nonprofit called Invisible Hands. And basically they deliver groceries.
I've heard of them actually. Yeah. They're very big in New York.
Yeah, I met with the founder on Thursday last week, and I offered to start like just to help her with her site, right? And I think that everyone, and this isn't like, hey, good job, Pat. This is like, Zee, to your point, like everyone, we should be thinking about this all the time. This is something that I've been thinking about for a long time. It's just like, with my spare time, like obviously outside of hanging with my kids, how can I give back to smaller businesses? Because when I was growing up, my grandfather owned a small shipping company in Manhattan. And so, my entire foundation, my family was, on that side, my family was built on a small business. And when I was working at Prime Visibility, which is now W Promote, I worked with a lot of small businesses back then, mainly small businesses in my private consulting before I came to Conductor. And that's something that I've been thinking about a lot the last couple of years is how do you give back to the smaller folks who can't afford a good, good agency, who can't afford a good consultant, but are really doing really good in the world to try and give back. So that's something that I would, Zee, and what you're saying, is to kind of, tell people to do is to, like what Lily's doing, trying to connect people. I think that change after this quite dramatically.
And I am all for donating your time if you can. Of course, like from a realistic standpoint, we have to protect our businesses. We do still need to make money.
Sure.
And a lot of the time nonprofits do have budgets. It's just not the same sort of agency tax that we expect them to pay. So a term that was coined at the Ad Council was low bono. So what they were always looking for was not a pro bono rate, but a low bono rate. So what's your discounted rate where you would like basically your floor maybe slightly below? What would you be willing to do without breaking the bank while still making a profit, but not necessarily the same margins that you'd be expecting? Like, is that something that you can incorporate and that you can sustain as a business in order to support and offset just to support another nonprofit? If you are offsetting other businesses that you are supporting, that's another conversation, but that can be really helpful in terms of like morale on the team and feeling like you're continuously supporting others. That being said, it's still low bono, so you're still committed to doing really good work. Yeah,
that's true. I like that idea. Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, on the media side, I'm sure a lot of you do know, but if you don't, Google Grants. I think they're still big, and I don't know, something like 10,000 a month, or it's quite reasonable for the nonprofits that fit. So if you are connected and helping nonprofits, you might want to have someone look into that as well. That would be a great, bonus for them to, get some free paid Google stuff.
I would love to see Google Grants come back with Grants Pro so that nonprofits can once again max out their accounts and get up to $40,000 in donated funding. Anybody on the phone who's not familiar with it, a nonprofit with a 501c3 is eligible for a Google Grants account. It gives you 10,000 free advertising dollars a month. Once upon a time, you're able to get up to $40,000. And if you reach that threshold, you've been grandfathered in, you keep it for life. But that would be really nice to see. But then again, I'm sure Google isn't doing so well in their advertising revenue right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like there's two things that have been kind of going to battle in my head right recently, which is I'm very annoyed at the American populace because I think a lot of people, there are definitely a group of people who have to live paycheck to paycheck because of the amount of money they make. And then there's a second group of people that are definitely living beyond their means. And what do they say? The average individual has something like $6,000 of credit card debt or something insane like that in the United States, which means no matter how you're setting it up, you could never weather a storm like this. Forget it being a month, like 2 months, 3 months. Then you also look at businesses, right? And you think about those businesses and you say, damn it, guys, like, isn't it fiduciarily responsible to have a certain amount in the bank to weather such storms? And in the future, will you need to have a certain amount of cash in order to be a truly viable business. Only knowing that things like this can happen in the future. Granted, we may be more ready for it because now we'll know how to work remotely and so on and so forth. And there's a few things that like will happen that may not catch us as much off guard. But I just think like if it changes anything, I hope one of the major factors it changes is the idea of the rainy day fund is not something some people do. It's something everyone considers having, like that's normal, just like collecting a paycheck is normal, just like other aspects, and that businesses start to run recognizing that you're not a viable business. If 1 month was to shut down, you would no longer be able to run your business, you know, because we can take away people's like their need to pay rent or other things like that in terms of businesses. But the fact that they're going to fold, I mean, damn it, you know, like great businesses have to have some cash to be able to survive more than just, you know, a month. And I know a month is a really long time for a business to close. Don't get me wrong. But I guess our new normal is that you're going to have to think about more than that, you know, and that's going to be a new financial metric, I guess. Not the cash, actual cash on hand wasn't a metric we were looking at in businesses, especially software and people you invest into. But I just think like the right way to run a business might change, like risk mitigation. I wonder. I don't know. Yeah. This is the stuff that rolls around in my brain.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a good point. It's a good point. And, you know, a lot of times, because I was surprised about that too, I guess, and that's just me not knowing, you know, the ins and outs of like the restaurant business, you know, obviously it's like, you know, hearing that, yeah, we might have to close because their rent is $30,000 a month. And, you know, in that case, it's like, I understand why they don't have $100,000 sitting in the bank, you know what I mean? Because the rent is that high. But it's interesting, and it's a shame that like now learning more about it, that so many businesses do run literally month to month,
right?
Just with their cash, and it's all about cash flow and all that. And these great businesses, you know, we have a bunch of them right here around my house. Which I was talking to one of the owners this weekend, and he's just like, if this goes on for another month or two, he goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was just like, it's crazy that it really is that month to month for a lot of these businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize, I guess, like, we're getting a real lesson in economics right now.
Yeah.
And it's like a hard one. It's not like macroeconomics, invisible hand type shit. It's like invisible hand just smacked us across the face. Like, it's rough. And I guess I always knew that what we did in search mattered, but I guess I didn't realize how much it could matter. Until you see people's air hose, you know, you'd see somebody get their air hose stepped on, right? And it was usually because they did something dumb, either they out of ignorance, like, you know, I did this stupid thing, like I did some crazy link building campaign. Google got hold of it, and bam, you know, you took one to the face, and then, or you'd have you know, they did something really stupid in terms of their website, and you know, really decimated some stuff, but it wasn't like. No one's done anything wrong. You know, these businesses didn't do anything wrong. They just existed. They just weren't resilient enough to deal with what we're dealing with now.
Or rather, it's illuminating what they may not have been doing right for a long time. And now we're all being hit with the same circumstances at the same time, which is so rare, right? Like we don't all get hit. Granted, Google algorithm updates happen and they hit an industry at a given time.
Yep.
It's very rare that it affects the entire internet. And that's what we're facing right now, at least like and within our country. And it's been country specific moving along over towards us now.
Yeah.
What have you been seeing, Zee? Like give us some insights from client side. What are you seeing we doing well, struggling, anything interesting you're seeing in the way that people are responding with their businesses?
I wish we had something totally different from what's been shared, but it's very similar with what I've heard on other search from home calls. So the B2B and SaaS, actually, it is slightly different. I know I think it was Friday's call, we were talking about some companies that had divested from cybersecurity measures and protecting their businesses that way. Unlike that, we have seen our SaaS clients continue to do well. Mainly because their businesses and their individuals still rely on those. So if they're cloud-based and they need the specific software to do their job, their margins are fine. They're actually taking advantage of this time because they're doing well. The terms that they were bidding on for PPC from some of their smaller competitors may be a little bit cheaper right now because folks have pulled away from it. So that's exciting. And they're able to invest more in SEO development to support themselves 6 to 12 months down the line. But of course, the more like individual B2Cs, like any client-based services right now for our clients, not doing so great. So it's hard to see. We're hoping that a lot of folks come back and that they weather this storm, but it's too early to tell.
Yeah, I'm wondering, when you're seeing the SaaS ones specifically, are you seeing them go for early stage content? Like, I'm just so surprised how many people are not, everyone keeps going to that bottom line. Like, everyone's so scared about what's happening that they feel like whatever dollars are out there, I've got to grab them now. I need them. Oh my God, this is such a time for, and don't get me wrong, I'm not obtuse to the fact that that matters. But I also think that, like, without some future planning, you find yourself just as you're going to find yourself just as possibly in the hole or in danger as you are right now. Like, if you have the luxury of still having cash flow, you need to start really thinking ahead, I think, right? Because that's not what every business can do. And in fact, I think that catapults you ahead of everyone else.
Oh, for sure. If you have the capital to plan for 6 to 12 months down the line for organic acquisition and actually be producing it so that you can rank well, then you're best suited for success at this time. We're not finding, so the clients with the larger budgets, in this case, one of them is really willing to go for top of funnel content and be very experimental. Whereas another one is a little more, they're a little more siloed. They're bogged down in long-standing best practices. So we're working on them a bit. It's a fun consulting challenge. But yeah, I think it's still very human specific. Some clients are like, oh, wow, like we're just getting into our data. We're seeing that we're still doing fine, especially in comparison to our competitors. So we're excited and we want to do everything that you throw at us. Whereas others are saying, oh, well, the way that we've been doing things has clearly served us well, right? Let's keep doing it the same way that we were doing it and try to create more abstruse content for folks out there. But it looks like folks are starting to adapt more, at least the SaaS companies. And I don't know if this is true for you guys. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. But our SaaS clients are finally embracing hub and spoke model content rather than, here's an idea that I had around this topic, and I'm going to write a 5-page series on it that could have been 1 page. So it looks like they're starting to embrace that. So that's fun. And that will help them beat out the IBMs of the world.
Yeah, I've been bugging clients for a really long time.
And we're starting to see the same thing, Zee. You know, like a lot of like the technology companies. It's funny you say that. I work with 2 large ones in particular, and we're in that with them right now. And like just last week, they had one of them emailed and said, hey, listen, like, given what's going on, like we want to like, talk about what that thing you brought up, a couple of months ago. I was like, yes, I was like, now is the time. Now is the time. Seize the carp, like let's do this.
Yeah, now is an excellent time to do anything experimental. Even if you wanted to plan a site migration or a site redesign, do it now. Do it within the next few months because Google's all over the map. And I do think that if we haven't started seeing it already, we should see some really dramatic position changes given the availability of certain products. We've already seen some of our PPC clients performing better than their major counterpart, Amazon, for obvious reasons. Amazon isn't able to deliver within the windows that we need. If I need diapers, I'm not going to go to Amazon for them right now.
Nope.
I have to go to a smaller retailer. So those terms and their organic positioning should be following suit. And this could be a really fun time for the smaller businesses, the smaller e-coms who have set themselves up for success, both from financial standpoint as well as that SEO content development standpoint.
It's interesting you say that.
Do you think after this, it's going to be better for SEO in general, just with all these bigger companies? Do you think it's going to be easier for us finally to get a lot of these programs like bought into off the ground?
I think if we do our part, we're taught, it's easy for us to be SEOs. And I think this is why people don't tend to like SEOs. because we think we're the experts and we don't always practice what we preach. So if we do our due diligence and we like wrap up the things that we like, put out case studies, make them present and public to the company, to the public, and share with them why we were successful, why X or Y strategy was successful, and explain it as simply as possible. Like we should be evangelizing that content and distributing it widely. And if we're not doing that, I don't think we're going to get much adoption, but you know, companies will respond to that other big name that did this. So if you can get buy-in from your big brand names to be a public case study, go forth.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm thinking a lot about how companies are going to need to invest in this longer term model. And those that are going to choose to do that, I think, are going to obviously see a much better return in the long run. The question is whether or not they are going to let the moment get in the way of the potential future, right? And so then it becomes a game of like, you know, there's like your company's kind of sitting. Are you in triage mode? Are you in triage mode? There's no option for anything close to considering, you know, a migration. Well, we might not even be here in a year. Okay. So then that's like not in your world. Right. And then you've got your other group that are like, okay, we're chugging along. And then you've got, you know, but we could be one of those businesses that isn't here in a year. So we're just going to focus on bottom line stuff because that's all we can really allow ourselves the flexibility to do. And then you've got the other ones that are actually drowning in it. Right. And the funny part about the ones drowning in it is like, I think about companies like Fresh Direct or even, you know, the ones that like, they can't even worry about acquisition right now. Like acquisition is not even a thing for them right now because right now it's like, I can't get enough people to deliver the stuff to people's homes, right? I can't even, like, there's fundamental parts of my business that we're not ready for this kind of influx. I'm sure at Zoom, they're probably like, well, we don't really need to talk about Zoom. And we do because it'd be great to get people long-term using our product. But man, we just became the Google of search engines. We became the Google of like video chat, essentially, right? Or video meetings, teleconferencing. So it's kind of weird to say like somewhere between the ones thriving and thriving in a way that like, you know, they should have the bandwidth to think about the future.
Sure.
Versus like the ones that are too scared to make moves. There's somewhere in between that like there's a group of clients, prospects, people that should be executing, just going and just killing it, just trying everything they can get their hands on, you know, finding all the different content writers they can get their hands on who may not have work right now, but are amazingly talented, and bringing them into the fold and getting them to work with them on projects and stuff. I guess, Zee, have you seen anyone taking these actions? You know, like, you don't have to give the names, but I'm just saying, who's actually, what do you think the DNA is that allows them to do that in that group, right? Because they could easily fall back on well, we're not that business that has the problem, but we could be. You know, fear drives a lot of action, unfortunately, or inaction in this case.
Exactly. And inaction is still an action of sorts, right? It's still a decision that you've made, and it still produces outcomes.
Opportunity cost.
Exactly. So in terms of folks, what's in the DNA of a company? Fortunately, a lot of our folks have that in their DNA. It wouldn't work if we were just like hitting walls every time that we recommended something. We wouldn't be able to do our jobs. But the folks that are open to testing, anybody who has ever done a split test of any kind, I don't care if it's Search Pilot, I don't care if it's Optimize or Optimizely, they tend to be willing to at least try stuff if you've got something to back up your sources, like anything. And the folks that are responding well to this are taking advantage of things that they know that the behemoths in the space can't do. For instance, we wrote a post about this, shameless plug, on Distilled.net on SEO's role for e-commerce amidst coronavirus, and how some strategies that you can put into play. Things like, it's very simple. It's such basic SEO stuff, and it's silly, but things like, we're still offering free shipping. We're still delivering within this time frame. We're still doing free returns. If you're a company that abides, like has those promises and you can still meet those promises, those might be nice differentiators for you right now, especially if Amazon or Wayfair are one of your competitors, because you know that they can't meet the same demand. But if you're a niche company and you're like, all we do is diapers, they're going to be able to get those diapers out of the door.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because when you think about what I care about first right now, unfortunately, it's not even the product. The first thing I'm actually thinking about is, will the shopping cart like be fulfilled?
Yeah.
And it's almost like I need to see that message blared across the top of the screen. We're still sending things are still available.
Yeah.
Like, I've had an ongoing need, sorry to all the vegetarians on the call, but I've had an ongoing need to have a steak. It's just a thing. And I was robbed, not literally, but robbed of the opportunity the other day when my shipment showed up and there was not a steak. I had ordered them, and all of a sudden, like half of my Fresh Direct order I didn't pay for, but it also wasn't there. And I was like, I don't know why, but I've decided, like, if I'm going to be trapped, I'm going to give myself things I don't normally have. And I haven't had a steak in a really long time. Anyway, nobody cares about this. But the point is, I now start looking at alternatives, things I've never looked at. Oh, what is it? Omaha Steak?
Yep.
Right? Okay. So now I'm looking at their site. And the first thing I'm doing is, I don't really even care. I'm not even looking at price. I am looking at, whoa, your packages are like, they are expensive. Don't get me wrong. But I don't have room for that in my freezer, is number one. These are things I'm thinking about, right? Second, so they might want to do they might want to repackage themselves as the small apartment or the small freezer package, right? Which is like, not only can you buy a lot of things from us, but they'll be very small, so they'll fit in your fridge and they'll only take this much room up. These are things I'm worried about. Will you deliver? And are you still delivering? Because the place I actually would have gotten them from, which is like down the street, I'm not going to venture out to, and they're not delivering. So, I'm in that world where Shipped or any of those like little TaskRabbit things or anything else you can get your hands on, at least in New York City, and you know this, you're also on the Upper East Side like I am, they're not available. I think we just got, like last night at midnight, we got our Amazon order in for, what is it, like the Instacart? We got that in at midnight, because you have to wait until midnight. And at midnight on the dot, you have to press the button, almost like you were calling into a radio show in the 80s trying to win a contest, or more to the recent stuff, trying to buy that pair of sneakers that, if you don't get them now, you're not going to get them, type reserve sneaker things that there's only 500 out there, something like that. So the point is, I think we're in this place where you're absolutely right. You need, as much as we need to get the people there, there's no point in getting them there if you don't give them a promise up front. And right now, reliability, understanding, right? So the fact that every single thing on Oklahoma Steak was like, of course I would have a freezer the size, in my garage where I could put like this order of like 70,000 burgers and steaks. No, I don't. I live in an apartment, which maybe that wasn't their audience before, but becoming in tune with the fact, like, they should. I'm sitting at their company. You know what I'm doing? I'm looking in GA and I'm seeing where the actual visits to the site are coming from geographically. I'm looking at the fact whether they're coming from rural, or they're coming from suburbs, or they're coming from cities. If they're coming from cities, what cities are they? I'm creating pages to go after that. I'm thinking about how to actually change my product packaging so that it can be smaller, so it can be easier. You're thinking through all these things, because you're serving the person and then you're serving the problem. And then the price doesn't become, at least in this case, I promise you, there's a lot of people, whereas yes, there's definitely a lot of people that have lost their jobs and are very, paycheck to paycheck. There's others who still have money and they still want to survive through this process, and they're still your possible consumer. So you want to call them a persona, let's call them a persona, and let's talk about what that persona wants. Now, target that persona really well, build something to serve that persona, and you could really end up introducing yourself to a whole new group of people that never bought from you before, aka. Right?
No, exactly. And that it should be effectively light, right? Like, you've got the page template built. You have the product. It will require some repackaging. I don't know what your warehouse looks like, but I can't imagine it's that hard to take 10 steaks and then make it 3 instead and update that packaging. Maybe I'm naive, don't know. But that should be something that's relatively feasible and scalable, and something that you could turn around in 2 weeks. And you can find those data, like all the tenants are the same. It's not as though the data have changed. You still have Google Analytics. You can still capture demo data. We still have Search Console, and we can populate fresh queries that are driving traffic to our site, as well as site search. If we have site search and we've got those terms enabled, and we're seeing like smaller delivery, three-day window, expedited shipping, anything related to that, or even folks landing on our FAQ page looking for the same, like those are clear indicators that there's a need there and you've got a new audience that you can serve.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Like, just give me my 3 steaks, please. Thanks.
Yeah. And I mean, again, this sounds very like, bougie, like, oh, let's talk about steaks during a pandemic. But when you really break down the story into what it is, it's just an understanding of an audience in a better way. And you're absolutely right. I think the difference is I don't think there's many companies that have had the ability to take what they've learned online in this way, in the way that people are searching, and put it all the way to the warehouse. That's where I think like the model has always gone this way. It's never really gone this way. And that's not to say the model can't just be reversed to be smarter and give the side the information so that this can be more effective. Again, times where we need whiteboards rather than fingers. But there's got to be this is an opportunity. And it's a wasted opportunity if we as practitioners don't use this to teach businesses, because they need it. Like, they're more willing. You mean Omaha Steak wouldn't be more willing to listen to this now than ever before? I mean, of course they would be. They could do something that Amazon can't, or that like Amazon Instant can't, or Instacart, or Whole Foods, or all these big companies that are way bigger than them are struggling to do in a major U.S. city like New York. They're not able to pull that off, and you can do it. I would assume out of Oklahoma, Omaha. I mean, like, that's pretty crazy. Like, that's awesome. That's the great equalizer of the internet, right?
Somebody's got to tweet at them.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll send them this recording and they'll get some stuff going, because I think you're 100% right. I mean,
Hey, Stefan, can I ask Zee something?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So, I think you're right on. This is like something we talked about last week when I was speaking about business impact and like the disconnect of search to what the hell's going on within the company. All right, there's search data can be used in so many different ways. You can, look at your paid search geo data to help do some new things in SEO, create new pages when you realize, what might be happening, within the geo, right? Or, just shore up local in a different way. But how do you get more connected? How is Distilled, or are you, getting more connected to the brand in a bigger way for the brand to really get the power of search? So search gets beyond the SEO guy within the company who then just has his supervisor, right? How do you get product people to really look at search? The things we can test, we know, right? We all know what we can do in search to test new product features, new product announcements, names for product. There's so much we can do, but we sit in this little window on the side, like the little sister, the forgotten sister a little bit. So what's been happening at Distilled, or your experience in trying to get further up within the company?
Oh, great questions. And like, I wish there was I think there is a one size fits all solution, but I think it comes in different colors. So it's like the same t-shirt, same size, different packaging. Meaning that data always is the most compelling storyteller. So if that data is competitive analysis and it's showing this is what our competitors are doing, or some smaller guy is doing it, then yes, we need to run the play, and that's really compelling for them. So if it's Omaha Steaks and there's some other steak company that is more direct to consumer and smaller and is designed for smaller fridges, we can pull that up and say, hey, this is what your margins could look like. This is what they're selling. Why aren't we doing the same? Why don't we have some sort of boutique pricing for that? We also have been playing, and we've done this for a long time, but we love Data Studio dashboards because it makes those data less intimidating to multiple players in a given company. You're probably not going to be surprised that there are people on product teams, on marketing teams, on the social media teams who are so intimidated by Google Analytics, they won't even open it. Like they're like, I don't know what the hell a session is versus a user. Like, what is a page view even? Like, I don't know what these terms mean. So you do have to evangelize the metrics that we, and I've said that twice now, but you have to use those metrics that we use and that are important to us and make it accessible to other folks. The great thing about Data Studio is that you can rename metrics to whatever you want. So you can say, oh, okay, this is a lead. Like any user is a lead. Fine. I don't care. Like, call it whatever their language is and make it accessible to them. And then if it's not just GSC and GA data that they care about, but they care about paid search data, they care about maybe page load data, there are all different connectors that you can pull in there. And then you can create a custom, really pretty dashboard in the span of probably a couple hours. Granted, if this is your first time using Data Studio, I won't lie, it's a steep learning curve. It can be really frustrating.
It's going to be a lot more than a couple hours.
It's going to be so frustrating. but reach out to me. I'm happy to help because I love Data Studio. That being said, if you get comfortable with it, or if you have a friend who knows Data Studio and you haven't adopted it yet, I highly recommend that. And it feels like a cop-out to say, what did the data say? But I do think that that's really what your C-suites are going to react to. That's what's going to force people to break down their specialization silo and say, like, I'm not just product team, I'm also part of marketing. Everybody who works at a company, this might've been from your session, Michael, but like everybody who works at a company is a brand evangelist. Like, you have to be representing the brand. You all have to be marketing the brand at the same time, regardless of what your role is. I don't know if that.
I'm thinking there's a t-shirt that Data made me do it. You know, in that statement, I think, coming from the guy wearing the Data Nerd t-shirt right now, but
I love it.
I definitely agree with you, Zee. I think there's a tremendous amount of potential to have data conversations. But if you're, I can't tell you how many SEOs I've seen walk in a room say MSV and assume that everyone knows what that is. Yeah. And it's like,
and even when you say monthly search volume, it's like, what do you mean?
What do you mean by that?
People don't necessarily understand what that even means.
No, they don't. And so again, it's like our jargon is our jargon, just the same way a company calling something in a product name is obtuse to what the audience understands. We have to realize that, like, we are marketers, both internal and external. And the problem is, I'm just going to flat out say it, SEOs have done a shitty job of internal marketing.
Agreed.
We just are bad. Like, it's eating your own dog food, drinking your own champagne, however the hell you want to name it, whatever nomenclature, kitschy thing we want to call it. We've sucked at, like, telling others how, like, what this stuff is, because it's always contextualized as ours and not theirs.
Yeah, because we're guarded, right? We've been very guarded for however long this started ago, you know what I mean? In my 16th year here in SEO, and I'm still having the conversations with people in, the executive group. Stefan, you're sitting right next to me most of the time, and we're still talking about stuff that people should have known, 15 years ago. But again, to Stefan's point, that's not just their fault, that's our fault for wanting to keep it and want to be like, hey, listen, this is our community, this is our, our thing that we're really good at. But again, in times like, like right now, like we've been trying, we have to make it more accessible. We have to open up that box and let other people in, because that's how we become, and it's great when I started to see like more like even executive level SEO roles open at companies. It's like, that's awesome. It's like, holy crap, there's a VP of SEO somewhere.
Right.
It's like, that's awesome. You know what I mean? And that's where we need to go. But I still think a lot of folks in the industry are guarded. You know what I mean? I still think we like our conferences, we like our chat rooms like this, and we're doing a better job of it, but we're still not doing a great job of it.
No, we're still precious. Sorry, go on, Michael.
Sorry. In fairness, agencies as well are not good at educating and evangelizing within the brand, because you have an hourly rate. Somewhere in management says, you know what, yes, we should be doing this. And again, I've had this, an acronym, even clients saying, what I need to be better at educating my boss and the C-suite on what the hell, we're not good at telling our story. And so we have helped them, the bigger clients where you can get away with, okay, I'm, giving them free hours to try and come up with a template, for, an internal marketing newsletter that highlights 3 things that happened this month or quarter, right? But all of us, agencies, SEO individuals, get away from it because you still have an hourly rate and some kind of profitability margin, and you can't just give everything away. So I do find it's a, agency industry-wide thing that we're just not good at storytelling internally. So that could be something that while, we're kind of down right now in execution and time, come up with a bit of a plan for at least once a quarter. How do we evangelize 3 great things that happen within search to let more people know, explain the language a little, whatever it might be. And maybe we, it's kind of a pull thing. Someone needs to own it. That becomes the problem. But maybe it's, the SEO with the best relationship with the client and forces this into, I'm going to get this information out there.
And I imagine that most of the people on this call are in SEO or they're digital marketers. So we're probably preaching to the choir here. But like Conductor is approaching this excellently by saying, all right, we have this time. Well, we're busy, yes, but we have this time now. We're from home. We miss social interaction. So let's share our knowledge. Let's have a regularly standing thing that is clearly a need within our communities all over, because we're all lonely. We all want to talk to people. But we also do want to share our own thought leadership. We want to keep standing in our industry as the folks that people turn to for advice, for guidance, and for insights. And now is not the time to bury your head in the sand. Now is the time to keep sharing what you're doing and why it's doing well. Also, if you need to practice how to explain to others what your job is or why your job is valuable, you have time to call up your parents or your family who have no idea what SEO is. So practice on them. I'm serious.
And now they'll take your calls because they think you're just checking in, but you're like, you're trapped. What do you mean you have somewhere else to go than listen to my SEO pitch?
Yeah. I know you don't have any plans, Mom. You can listen to my SEO stuff.
That's amazing. I love it.
She's got time to listen and she's actually curious.
I love it.
She'll ask me how to fix her router.
Yeah. So that's a great point. And actually, as you guys were both talking, I was thinking about something, which is always the most dangerous thing that can happen on the show. But, what if agencies, to your point, Michael and Z, what if agencies started to consider that to be part of the price? So I don't do a campaign unless the measurement and the education around it, education hours, are booked as part of it. Now, they don't have to be at the same price. They don't, okay? They're not the same as execution hours, but you almost have these hours and they get banked per campaign. And as they get banked per campaign, you're supposed to take that and say, how do we exemplify it? In other words, how do we make an example out of it? How do we make a case study out of it? Maybe it's 2 hours, and that's the 2 hours devoted. Now, if you don't use those for the campaign because, I don't know, something went wrong, some reason, whatever, they get banked into another set of hours. That other set of hours now becomes a bucket, and that bucket becomes education time. Because it's almost like, if you do the great stuff and then you don't actually teach anyone about it, then you fulfilled on your promise, but they didn't get any better. Like they physically got better through the metrics, but they'll never be able to replicate it again, which, I mean, let's be honest, guys. I mean, and this is my push-pull. There's great agencies out there that are like, teach to fish. And then there's others like, what do you mean fish? You don't need to know about a fishing rod or a pole. We take care of it. Just be happy you get a fish, right? I rather tend to like the ones that teach to fish because I think that they're upping their game. They're raising the level. By the way, thank you for the nice compliment, Z. I'll be sure to Venmo you later for that. But like, I think that there's value in trying to educate. I've always said that, but if you don't actually make it a physical part of your offering and actually get the upfront contract with the client that you are in fact paying for this, not minus that, and you try and rip that out, you can't rip that out. It's part of my deliverable. It's literally what we do. Now you have something that you can actually, instead of like, I mean, how many of you sat there for a quarterly business review and now you're
oh crap, we got to waste all these hours trying to amass every single thing we touched for the client over the last 3 months to create a deck, to then teach them to this, to that. Wouldn't it have been better in the non-procrastination world if we'd actually done that along the way, and we could have just pieced it all together very simply into the storyline and then explained to the client why that storyline was great, and then bam, move on with our lives?
Yeah, and we have to adopt those good habits when we are developing scope and when we're selling our services. I think we do ourselves a disservice by, and I'm not saying that any one person does this. I think that this is us trying to deliver on what a prospective client is asking for. They want us to do SEO. Unfortunately, you don't just do SEO. It's something that you have to get adopted throughout an entire company. And it's a form of, SEO is just digital marketing, if you ask me. Like if you do digital marketing well enough, you're doing SEO well enough. You can't have one without the other, but you do need that educational component. We roll that into pretty much every scope that I can think of off the top of my head. And that's extremely important because we won't be successful unless everybody else knows why we're doing what we're doing and how to run the play themselves. If they're writing any content on their site, like somebody has to touch it, and it can't always be us. It has to go through rounds of review, and they need to be able to understand why they don't have like X SEO best practice not being followed on Y page.
Z, not to put you on the spot, but one, do you get pushback from clients or prospects in the purchasing process that like, I don't want to pay for the education? And then two, is there a KPI metric for that aside from like binary on and off? We trained X number of people, woohoo! And then it's like, great, they've been SEO trained. But then like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, how does that?
No, all great questions. So we, I guess we do occasionally get pushback in the scoping phase. It's usually in response to costs, right? Everybody wants to have the best product at the lowest price, right size, right price. That said, if that's the case, then we're looking at a shorter term project, and we set their expectations. We say, sure, we're happy to remove this, but we're just letting you know that the success of these other clients has been due to this training, has been due to a long-standing strategy that we've developed collaboratively, not in this SEO box that we give to you and then you run the play with. And here's why. This is how they avoided duplicate content. This is how they avoided not developing new, fresh editorial content every X period of time. This is how they keep appearing for fresh keywords and not just the same ones that they've been rolling around internally for ages. From the flip side of the success metric of a training, it tends to show its worth when you do a content audit or a tech audit. Like, I know that I'm not the only content that you're publishing on your site. It's not possible. You wouldn't be able to run your online business if you weren't doing anything like rolling out a new product, rolling out a new page, rolling out a new blog post, for heaven's sakes. But like, if you don't have that training, it's going to be extremely obvious when your next review comes around, when we're scheduled to do another audit of your site. And that, I guess that's really the metric that you show people. And it isn't a binary, you're absolutely right, but it's, here are the clients that went through the training and actually adopted it into their practices. Here are the clients with the checklist that they follow whenever they're releasing another site update. And here are the clients that aren't. And this is the longitudinal view of that. Unfortunately, that means that you've probably been a client for a few months or, maybe even a year plus, but you fortunately also have great results to show from that, right? So yes, you've been paying agency tax, but also we've got great ROI on that, and we've gotten 30% more leads year over year. I'm not upset about that at all. I can pay your agency fee.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's actually, it's interesting when you think about getting people to recognize the value of education, because to your point, it doesn't, we can say how many people sat in the class. The question is like, how many people took
how they
something
adopt it.
Right.
How many of them absorbed it, because that's what really happened.
And action from it.
Yeah, it becomes a lunch and learn that everyone forgets about,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And one way that we avoided that too, and of course you can't force people to watch a video, but we record our trainings when we give them to clients so that they can share that with any new people who are joining the company. It becomes part of their onboarding process. They have a one-sheeter of content or technical considerations that they want, like they can print out, they can keep at their desk or at their home office and just have that. So it's there to remind them. And again, we're not precious with our content. I don't care that you weren't there for that 1 hour. We'll record it and you can watch it later.
Same with this. I mean, obviously I'd love everyone to be here for this all the time, but it's recorded. Still show up, guys. I think I just gave you guys all an out. But
Nice plug.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Keep down the DL, Stefan.
no, I'm just saying. Listen, if you missed your favorite episode of the day, so to speak, hopefully you don't have 500 other things you're watching. Maybe you do, but I know this is pretty much my look forward to moment in the day of seeing as many of the faces or names on this channel as possible. And I think, you know, when you think about the educational process and what we're actually trying to accomplish, I think not to put words in your mouth, Zee, but we're kind of moving to a world of governance. If you can get any forms of governance put in place, then that literally is the long-standing version of the education that was momentary in time, but has a longer impact because it's now become a part of our process. So when education can become processized and then put in place in an executable way, even better if you could say now the governance caught this many issues and was able to stop them from going live. Yeah. Wow. Like, and that all came from educating our IT team as to why they need to put these governance metrics in place.
Exactly.
Cool. That's awesome. That's great. So I know we're running up on time. Zee, any last thoughts you want to share with everybody?
Oh God, putting me on the spot.
I know.
Oh, well, I said it before, I'll say it again. If you're not playing with Data Studio, you should be. It's really fun. It may be intimidating at first, but that's just the cult of Google products. They're going to be intimidating at first. You will learn it. You will realize it's more intuitive than you thought. And the way that you can manipulate the data is so powerful. Like you can say goodbye, mostly I think, to your QBR decks. Like you can have your QBR all happen in your Data Studio dashboard, the same place where you're reviewing weekly metrics. So if you're not playing with it, I think you'll really enjoy it if you give it a chance.
Great. Well, listen, thank you so much, Zee, for joining us. I really enlightening. Everything from nonprofits and what we need to be doing to give back to how we need to be evangelizing. And yes, we've used that term 1,000 times, which validates my title so much. Evangelizing search within organizations, to all of the other aspects and topics we covered today. We have an amazing schedule this week, guys. So please stick around with us. Tomorrow is a TBD, but it sounds like I may have convinced or coaxed or cajoled Christy Olson to come out from her maternity leave for just one slight moment and join us at noon tomorrow. So be sure to join us then. Then we'll have Ian Laurie, former founder of Portent, is going to be getting on. Amazing storyteller. He'll tell us how he built or how he managed his agency through the 2008 crisis and what went right and wrong there. Greg Gifford, arguably one of the smartest people in local search and definitely a person who speaks the most I know of on any talk circuit in the SEO industry, 20, 30 plus conferences a year he does. So he's got time on his hands right now. And we've got him on Thursday. And then a guy you might know named Ram Fishkin, some dude joining us on Friday just to talk about some stuff. So hopefully you guys will be here all week. It's going to be awesome. Zee, if you don't mind in the LinkedIn group, drop the Distilled piece that you talked about. I think there's definitely some stuff there. Please, guys, drop whatever you're finding on the internet in there that's valuable. We'll continue to do it. It looks stupid when I'm the only one putting stuff in there. So please, by all means, help out, get in there, help each other, start discussing with one another. We appreciate you. Stay home, stay safe. Thanks again, and we'll see you here tomorrow, same time, same channel.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Zee.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, guys.